So not buying GPUs seems to be working. Nvidia seems to be lowering the price of the upcoming RTX 4070. I mean, the initial leaked price of $749 was ridiculous, but now it looks like it might come in at $599, which at least it's a lot lower, and that's because they know nobody is buying GPUs now. So you can see it works. If you don't buy GPUs, Nvidia has a lot of pressure from its partners and retailers to give them something that people will buy, and then we get cheaper prices. Pretty simple. Good product and then cheaper prices. But will the 4070 be something you want to buy even at $599, or is that still a little bit too expensive? This GPU is kind of important because it's the division between the lower end GPUs and the much higher end GPUs, which have all been very expensive. Remember, Moore's Law is Dead had said that possibly the RTX 4070 was going to be $749. I never thought that was realistic because that's literally the most you could say it is without it being a 4070 Ti. So that's completely unrealistic. I think maybe somebody, whoever his source was maybe just trolling him or trying to see what people's reaction would be to the highest possible price that an RTX 4070 could potentially be. I mean, if they made it that high, they don't have any wiggle room with the 4070 Ti. In the future, if they plan to do a price drop, and they may have to, because I've been checking around and they have so many of these GPUs in stock. Even the local Best Buy that I went to take a look, they usually never have the higher end GPUs on display, and they had a 4070 Ti along with a bunch of other GPUs. So what we're hearing now, and this comes from video cards, they're saying that the 4070 could come in around $599. Now, that's an interesting price because it starts to be not as bad as the 4070 Ti. I mean, people were expecting $699, but like I said, if they price it at that gives them no room for a price drop in the future, because remember, this is not a normal GPU market. Normally, I think they would have put it at $699 and just say that's what it is. But in this market, GPUs literally are not selling at all. Very, very few numbers. So if they put a 4070 at that price, they're not going to sell very many, because then the 4070 Ti is only $100 more and you're getting some more performance, even though it's the same amount of VRAM. If it's $599, potentially they could move some units, because that's a number that's only $100 more than the RTX 3070, and you're potentially getting performance that's better than last generation's 3080, maybe getting close to like a 3080 Ti for $599. And given that RTX 3000, if you go on the used market, 3080 Ti's are still at least like $600 to $700, then it's not such a bad thing, and you are getting 12 gigabytes of VRAM, which, while on the low side, isn't nearly as bad as on the 4070 Ti, which in my opinion should be an entry-level 4K GPU. Even though Nvidia says it smashes 1440p, if something smashes 1440p, it should be able to do 4K, and in many cases, because of that VRAM bus, not just the 12 gigabytes of VRAM, the 192 memory bit bus, it falls short of that. So I'm more okay with the 4070 being just a straightforward 1440p or even 1080p GPU. But at that point, it starts to get pretty expensive if you're just playing 1080p, even for esports titles. So $599, I think, is probably a price that they probably will sell it. It may give AMD a hard time with something like a 7800 XT. They're certainly going to have to price it very competitively, or else Nvidia is going to continue to gain that market share. Will it really be $599? I think while $749 was high, $599, not that it's the best price in the world, but it kind of sounds like too good to be true, because it's only $100 more than last generation, but it's $200 cheaper than the 4070 Ti. So a little bit skeptical, but maybe given the current market conditions with GPUs not selling, if Nvidia wants to move any of these units, and I'm sure they're getting pressure from their partners and from even retailers, nobody wants to sit on these expensive GPUs, and it's possible even the retailers may say, we're not buying any of these GPUs because we have so many existing GPUs on the shelves that we can't even sell. So they're probably getting pressure from all angles. It's not just from us, the consumers, it's really from retailers retailers and from partners, because the consumers are really at the end of it. We're the ones that buy it. So if we're not buying, it's going to come down to the retailers, to the partners. They're all going to feel that crunch. So I guess when people say keep holding, they're lowering the prices, it's kind of true. I think it really shows you what's going on here. Nvidia has to strategically price that 4070 cheap enough so of course they can still realize their profit, but they also appeal to people that want to buy, because at $699 it's just going to get the same reaction as the 4070 Ti. Nobody's going to want to buy it, and while its limitations with the VRAM aren't quite as serious as the 4070 Ti because of that lower price point, you expect to play at a little bit reduced settings or a little bit lower resolution. It's still not a GPU that may be all that future proof, because look at all the GPUs now, like the 3070 Ti. 8 gigabytes of VRAM at 1440p is getting absolutely destroyed with any new game. Take like Resident Evil 4 and even The Last of Us, which is completely unoptimized. I get it, but a lot of new games are really going way past 8 gigabytes of VRAM. 12 gigabytes of VRAM is really that threshold that games are starting to hit now. So imagine in a few years with new game releases with ray tracing, high textures, 12 gigabytes of VRAM is not going to last that long with the settings as it does now. So that's why I feel 16 gigabytes of VRAM and above is really the bare minimum for a GPU that costs $600+. I mean, look, even AMD put 16 gigabytes of VRAM on their 6800, even though it is the slower, it wasn't the DDR6X, it's still more VRAM. And at the end of the day, sometimes that's going to make more of a difference when these GPUs are hitting that limit so aggressively. So the 4070 at $599, not the most future-proof, but at least it's better than $699 or any of those prices. And $599 also gives them a little wiggle room with the 4070 Ti for a potential price drop. I mean, they certainly have a lot more room with the 4080, which I've already seen discounted from MSRP by a decent amount, but the 4070 Ti will be too close to the 4070. Having that $200 buffer in there, I think certainly will work and be a little bit more generous in case they want to reduce that price. I don't see them going below $599 because they can justify the $100 price increase with DLSS 3 and maybe a little bit better power efficiency for the power that it's putting out. At the end of the day, it's not a bad product. I mean, at $599, you're going to be getting some pretty good performance. It's going to match some of the higher end GPUs of last generation. And if you like DLSS 3 in certain games, personally, I do think it's a good technology, depending on the game and your use case. Obviously, not if you want low latency in esports titles, but it does have its uses, and I don't think the company should lead with it. It's basically like an add-on bonus that makes your games better depending on your use case, but they shouldn't use it to say, oh, this GPU is 3 times better than that GPU of last generation using this metric, because it's kind of a little bit of a cheat. That's why people get a little bit upset. It's a great add-on feature, but it's not the performance of the GPU primarily. That's why people, I think, have a problem with DLSS 3. If Nvidia just sells it as an option you can use and to augment your experience depending on your game, I think they would have a better reaction rather than them saying this GPU is 3 times faster than the 3090 Ti or something like that, like they did with the 4070 Ti, and then you read the fine print and they're talking about DLSS, then it's not really fair, and it's not how we typically look at these GPUs when they come out in terms of comparing them to last generation. So hopefully the 4070 stays at a lower price, and we can assume the performance will be within a few percentage points of the 4070 Ti, so probably no great mystery there. And then we'll have to see, is it worth it? I mean, it's going to be the cheapest next generation GPU, and it's coming out pretty soon in April now. There's nothing else that would be $599 and a new generation. Everything else, including AMD, is considerably more expensive. So for people waiting to get into the new DLSS 3 and get something a little bit faster than they had last generation, this is going to be an entry point. So we're going to see what happens. And if you have an existing high-end RTX 3000, it may not even really be a good idea to upgrade, because the only thing you're getting really is DLSS 3. Everything else should be pretty comparable. Even if you have like a 3090 Ti or 3090, 3080 Ti, those aren't really going to be that big performance jump. You really have to go through like a 4080 or a 7900 XTX to really feel the difference if you have a high-end GPU, which is part of Nvidia's problem, and that's why they have to keep the pricing on that 4070 good, or else it's just going to sit on the shelves like the current GPUs are doing. All right, guys, so remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.